The OnePlus 7 Pro was basically the first device with the full screen pop-up camera design you could regularly buy here, but it really wasn't the bang for the buck phone we were used to seeing from OnePlus. The Xiaomi Mi 9T or Redmi K20 has made a lot of headlines because it brings a lot of what makes the OnePlus 7 Pro great to a much lower price point. But can it live up to the hype? Hey, I'm Brian and this is my review. The naming for this phone is a bit confusing. This is the Mi 9T, which is the international version of the Redmi K20 that is sold in Asia. The K20 also has a Pro version with a better CPU and faster charging. This is not that version, but both are so similar that what I have to say basically applies to both. Let's start with the design. It's definitely very flashy, at least if you take the blue or red versions of the phone that have a flame pattern on the sides that changes depending on how light hits it. A lot of people apparently really like that aesthetic. I personally think it looks extremely tacky. That's why I have the black version that has carbon fiber accents below the glass. I also think it would have looked better without those and the shimmering red accents, but if you're into that, it's a unique look. If not, Xiaomi does include a soft touch hardshell case alongside the charger and USB-C cable to cover it up. Build quality is stellar though, with curved glass on the back and an aluminium frame. On that frame you also find a headphone jack next to the USB-C port and the mono speaker that really isn't anything special. The chassis also isn't water resistant and there's dual SIM but no expandable storage. The 9T is a lot more compact than the 7 Pro and its screen also doesn't feature curved edges. It's a 6.4-inch OLED with 1080p resolution and it's a really nice screen. Blacks are deep, colors pop, even if they can't quite compete with higher-end OLEDs, and it surprisingly gets extremely bright for a mid-range phone. This is miles ahead of the LCD on the Poco F1 that just wasn't that great. And you get this on a front with almost no bezels all around and no notch. Only the chin is a few millimeters thicker as usual, but it's still very minimal. Having such a modern look at this price is just awesome. Because of that full screen display, you also have the selfie camera on a pop-up mechanism, which I find really isn't an issue. I rarely use it anyway, but I wish you could get rid of the sound it plays when opening and closing. The RGB LED on the pop-up camera is a very smart implementation though, as it doubles as a notification LED that you can see no matter which way the phone is placed on a table. And it has this notification LED in addition to also featuring an always-on display that always shows the time and notifications, which I love so dearly. Plus, the fingerprint sensor under the screen, which is a bit slower than on the OnePlus 7 series by the way, but still very usable, is also always activated, so you can just put your finger on the screen and it's unlocked without having to first tap to wake it. This is so useful and so great to see at this price. This is a real positive about MIUI 10 based on Android 9 running on this phone. So is the system-wide dark mode and tons of customization options. What I don't like about it is the gesture navigation. The back gesture by swiping from the side is so cumbersome that I really question Google's decision to implement it the same way in Android 10. I'm also not the biggest fan of the look of MIUI, but with Nova Launcher it really isn't that big of a deal and actually fine. Though for some reason MIUI doesn't play well with third-party DNS services like Cloudflare. Performance also doesn't take a hit. Apps launch fast and stay in RAM for a pretty long time thanks to 6GB paired with 64GB of storage. The Snapdragon 730 in here does a great job at maintaining speed, and you probably won't feel the difference to the 855 in the Pro version in most tasks, though that will have an advantage over time. But 4K video recording lags sometimes on here. I also think that there must be some sort of problem with battery management. The 9T gets about 6 hours of screen on time with my usage of messaging, video watching, browsing and no gaming. Now don't get me wrong, that's not a bad metric, but it's no more than the 7 Pro, which has the same 4000 mAh battery capacity, but a much more power-hungry screen. Fueling this assumption is also the fact that the phone loses about 10% at night in standby, which really isn't good. Charging is okay, but not groundbreaking, with about a 1.5 hour charge time with an 18-watt charger. The Pro version charges a lot faster at 27 watts. There's no wireless charging, but at this price that's also not really to be expected. Let's talk about the camera, and the selfie camera can be summed up pretty quick in being good in good light and surprisingly bad in bad light, even for the price and with all the beautification turned off. The 3 cameras on the back are a completely different story. The main sensor is the same 48-megapixel one as on the OnePlus 7 Pro, and it's supported by a 13-megapixel wide angle and an 8-megapixel 2x telephoto camera. And the photos are very respectable, not on the level of the Pixel or the OnePlus 7 Pro though. You can still sometimes see this slightly over-sharpened and overexposed yet not super vivid look a lot of Chinese phones seem to have. But it really isn't that pronounced here. This camera can take some really great looking shots, and it's also very versatile thanks to the 3 focal lengths. Though especially the telephoto is noticeably soft. The night mode is a lot better than nothing, but also nothing special. You can also record very stable 4K video with all 3 cameras. I want to start out this conclusion by saying that I'm really impressed by this phone, a lot more than I initially thought, also because of the very smart software features. So much so that I really don't see a lot of point anymore in recommending phones like the Pocophone, which really only costs insignificantly less. And the Mi 9T offers you a better OLED screen, a much more modern design, better build quality and a way better camera, while really only making an insignificant cut in the CPU department. And if you really need that higher end chip, you're probably better off just spending 50 euros more on the K20 Pro, which has that in addition to all the benefits of the regular version. For 300 euros, the Mi 9T or K20 gets a huge buying recommendation from me. It really does live up to the hype, with only some of the software bugs I mentioned before speaking against it. If you enjoyed this video, you know which buttons to press, and don't forget to press that follow button on Twitter. I'm Brian, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.